Good morning, everyone. We're very pleased today to have the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency with us. So let's say welcome to Colin Glover. He is the Cybersecurity Coordinator for Kentucky, and we'll be sharing a lot of great information about resources that can benefit Kentucky Public Libraries. So take it away, Colin.
All right, and good morning, and thanks for having me in this lovely, windy, rainy morning. I'm in Lexington, so getting to see it all right now. Fortunately, I'm not down on the coast. And with me today is Ryan Lewis, who is my counterpart, also in Kentucky, and his official title is Cybersecurity Advisor. And our contact information will be at the end of the presentation. So if you've never heard of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency before, we call it CISA because the actual title is a mouthful. We are part of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, so we're a federal agency, and we've been around for about 5 years, 6 years now. Our focus is on resilience. The goal is for people to not have incidents, or for organizations to not have incidents, and if they do have an incident, to be able to respond and recover quickly. So a lot of the work that we do is on the preparatory side, getting folks a little bit more educated about cybersecurity, as well as implementing certain tools and services which can certainly help reduce their risk. So that's a bit about the agency. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about that risk, and then we'll get into some of the tools and services that we offer. And yes, if you have questions, concerns, or just want to talk about something else, feel free to put it in the chat. And I think Lauren said she would monitor that, or raise your hand, or however you want to do it. Let's see if this thing will work. One of the major issues we've seen since really the pandemic, and I think Lauren was mentioning she gets to work remotely, I work remotely. Many folks across all kinds of organizations now have that ability to work remotely, which is awesome and certainly makes it better than commuting every day. I used to live in a big city, and commuting was not a whole lot of fun. So working remotely has really, it has huge advantages, but from a cybersecurity model, it can have a lot of disadvantages. So from the pandemic, we saw a lot of folks working remotely, and in order to work remotely, they opened up a lot of holes and security issues within their network that they still haven't closed at this point. And we see cyber threat actors, criminals attacking these holes every day. So even though it was the pandemic, and obviously it was a health concern, it has really led to a lot of the cybersecurity issues we see today. You can see on the screen, there are many other risks out there, whether it's insider threat or extreme weather, which we're experiencing, or they're experiencing down in Florida and Georgia at this point. And then obviously accidents or technical failures still rear their ugly head at this point. One of the cool parts of what our agency does, it's called penetration testing. And penetration testing, it's a really cool program. And basically, you allow somebody you trust to attack your network like a hacker does. We offer that as a service. We don't offer it to a whole lot of people. One, it's no cost, so we can't offer it to everybody, but we do it quite a bit. Part of that program, the goal of a pen test is to identify weaknesses and then let the organization know how we got into the environment, how we moved through the environment, and how we did what we did. So we publish a report every year on the major weaknesses we see across industry and government and the ways that we attack a network. So the number one route that we get into an environment, and this is still the number one route that hackers get into an environment, and as mentioned, there's a lot of testing that goes around this, is phishing. Phishing still to this day is the number one route. The attacker, some of the phishing emails you might get, or some of the test emails you may get, may be a bit ludicrous. It may be, a misspelling of a word. They're pretty obvious. I've been getting spam texts recently that claim to be from the United States Postal Service with a foreign area code. Those ones are pretty easy to detect and pretty easy to ignore. Attackers, though, have become more sophisticated. I've gotten phishing emails where they've broken into the email box of somebody I know and trust and have responded to an email I sent. Those are very, very hard to detect. Again, it's somebody I know and trust, and they're actually replying to an email that I had sent. So being very, very cautious, particularly if somebody's requesting you to click on a link, open an attachment, and things like that. Most of the phishing attacks we see today is not opening an attachment. It's clicking on a link that requests that you put in your username and password. It could be something like a Office 365, Google Drive, things like that, where to access the document, you have to enter in your credentials, and they're trying to steal your credentials that way. Another major issue we see are just a lot of users have too many permissions. Users can install software, users can access sensitive resources. That's not a great thing. Another major issue, and we'll talk about this a lot, is patch management. If you work with an IT provider or you have an IT member on your staff, staying on top of the patches and updates is very, very difficult. Many organizations across the nation struggle to do that, and hackers take advantage of that every day. So staying on top of patch management is one of the most critical things you can do. An easy part of that, and going right in line with patch management, is if you have unsupported or legacy software and hardware. One of the bigger ones, Windows 10, is going end of life next year, October of 25, I think. That means that Windows 10, which most of us still use, will no longer be supported by Microsoft. There's going to be necessity to upgrade to Windows 11. One of the hard parts with that, when you guys hopefully made the transition from Windows 7 to Windows 10, that was pretty easy to upgrade. You could literally just download the new operating system and it worked. Windows 11 has some new hardware requirements, and so many computers may not be able to upgrade to Windows 11, and you'll have to end up buying new computers. So that's going to put a lot of people in a difficult place. Outside of just your typical Windows 10, Windows 11, things like Server 2012 have gone end of life, and other operating systems like that. So ensuring that your computers, your hardware is able to support the most current operating system. Potentially risky services, those are the ones that are out there. As I mentioned, when we all went home to work, there's an easy button, I call it an easy button, but an easy route on a Windows machine that allows you to access remotely. It's called Remote Desktop Protocol. That is not a very secure protocol. It's fine using internally, but actually using it on the internet or allowing it to be exposed to the internet puts you in a pretty bad position. So ensuring that you're aware of all the things that are open on your computer, open on your network, is absolutely critical. And the last one, and this is where a whole lot of folks struggle, is it's what we call having a flat network. And that means every computer, every server, every device on a network, like your home network probably, can talk to each other. That's not a great place to be at. You want to be able to segment that network so only specific devices can talk to specific devices. If you do get a virus on one computer, and that computer is properly segmented, the hackers can't do too much damage, or they have to work a lot harder to do damage. If it's a flat network, there's no segmentation, then those hackers can just run rampant through the environment and really cause some damage. Network segmentation can be fairly complex. It doesn't have to be, but it's not something that can be just fixed overnight. So hopefully at this point, everybody's heard of ransomware. I know there's been at least one incident with a library in the state a couple of years ago, and we've had a couple of near misses as well. If you've never heard of ransomware, that's awesome. I'm glad you never have. But really, ransomware, what it does is it locks up computers. It locks up all the files on a computer. It can do some other stuff, but in that way, the files and information on your computer become inaccessible. The goal is the criminals, the attackers, they lock all those files up, and then you have to have what's called a decryption key to unlock those files, and basically you have to pay the criminals to get that decryption key. In a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. And who's at risk of ransomware? Everybody. The vast majority of ransomware attacks, at least the beginning of them, are targets of opportunity. It's all automated. They're just constantly scanning the internet, looking for issues, looking for people to click on phishing emails, and then they launch their attack. Many of the ransom demands aren't that high in price. You'll see things on the internet where the average ransom is, $1 million or whatever it may be. And that's just because that average has been biased because some of these larger companies pay big ransoms. They will certainly target small organizations, libraries, small towns, and those ransoms, can be in the tens of thousands of dollar range. They're going to make it a number that you can actually pay because otherwise they get no money at all. So just saying that we're too small, we don't have any information, nobody cares about that, that just doesn't work anymore. Again, a lot of this is just random, and they're going to take whatever they can get. And one of the biggest issues with ransomware compared to other crimes that are out there, or cyber crimes that are out there, is it can shut down operations. If you fall for a scam, that puts you in a bad spot, you lose money, but your organization, your library can continue to operate as normal. If they shut down all of your computers, how much of an impact would that be to your organization? I love libraries. I use your digital systems all the time. I go to the local library as much as I can. So much of it is computer based at this point. So if all of your computer systems were shut down, how big of an impact would that be to your operations and to all of the people that use your libraries? I would suspect to be a pretty big deal. So understanding ransom, being able to protect yourself from ransomware is absolutely critical. So we're going to talk about this a number of times in different ways, but a couple of things you can just start with today, kind of get underway on how to protect yourself, is kind of following this list. Update software and install patches. That's absolutely critical within your organization, within the library, as well as your own personal life. When you get that notification from Google Chrome or Edge or Firefox, up in the top right, it says updates are available. And I'm not going to lie, on my personal computer, it says right now finish updates, and I just got to hit that button. So do that whenever it shows up. That update typically involves security patches and can really help protect yourself. When you get that alert from Microsoft on your Windows machine, I know it takes several minutes, it's a pain, but please go ahead and let it run through that. Have antivirus. There's any number of good antivirus. Even the free stuff out there works pretty well. Please use strong passwords. Be cautious of reusing passwords. And I don't think I have it on the slide deck, but there's a website out there called Have I Been Pwned? And what that does is when a third-party vendor, when a major company gets compromised, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or T-Mobile or whatever it may be, when they have a compromise, all your passwords get dumped on the dark web. Attackers probably have the passwords from those websites that you use. If you're using the same password everywhere, they can reuse that password and log in as you. And that's going to put you in a bad position, both professionally and personally. You might consider using a password manager. We recommend the use of a password manager. That can really help you not have to use the same password, not have to remember passwords. It makes life a lot easier. Look out for default passwords. We see that way too often, where as a new device gets deployed, you leave the same default password on there, is exposed to the internet, and makes life pretty easy for the attacker. Use MFA everywhere you can. I know it takes an extra couple of seconds. It's kind of a pain, but please use MFA everywhere that you can. Make sure you have a good firewall, and again, be suspicious of unexpected emails. If you want to learn more about cybersecurity, and again, we're going to talk more about it, we have all kinds of resources on our website. Everything that we offer is absolutely no cost. We're a federal agency that's taxpayer funded. So if you go on CISA.gov, there are all kinds of resources on there that can help you. So some misconceptions, you need a big budget. Many of the things that we find it's really process and training. There is no silver bullet for cybersecurity. There's no product or solution that that you can go and buy and say, okay, we're now secure. A lot of it is going to be focused on process and training. which are typically not going to cost you anything. Many of the products that you might need, the solutions that you might need, really aren't that expensive. And one of the reasons we're all here today is there are grants available. I know that the specific grant for y'all is coming out. We also have a grant that everybody on here is eligible for. It is managed by the state, and hopefully the application for that will be coming out in the next week or so. So there is money available, but again, a lot of the things that we recommend aren't huge budget items. But the reality is that you can start with cybersecurity at a minimal pace. It's not very expensive, and then we kind of grow your program from there. As I mentioned, there are no silver bullet solutions. There is not one thing we can say that's going to fully protect you. It's having that defense in depth. But many of the issues that we see time and time again are easily dealt with. It's people just didn't take the time to put stuff in place. It's missing patches, it's lack of user training, it's lack of multi-factor authentication. Those basic things can really save you. I talked about why would you be a target? Everybody's a target. There's too much to do. It goes back to the old saying, how you eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. Yes, there's 1,000 things that need to be done. I know everybody on here is absolutely busy just trying to do their day job, and the cyber stuff is just an additional duty. But it's absolutely critical. And again, it can take years, even multiple years to get stuff to a certain place, but it won't ever get there until you actually start it. We don't own the risk. You do own the risk. It even says it on the slide. And the U.S. government will save us. There are literally, so CISA is America's Cyber Defense Agency. It says so on our website. And there's 2 of us here in the state. We don't have the resources or bandwidth in order to save everybody. And we're not going to take over a network. Nobody wants that. We don't have the ability to do so. Really, we're depending on you guys to be as resilient as you can. That being said, we are doing our best to develop the resources, develop the resiliency, and work with everybody across the U.S. government, as well as state and local partners. We're out every day working with critical infrastructure, both on the public side as well as the private side, to help them develop, expand, and mature their cybersecurity programs. There's a lot of good documentation on here if you ever get to read it, but it is a whole of government approach. All right, so why are you guys actually here? I talk about cybersecurity, but you're here because there's requirements. So this is from the guidance from the E-rate. They're requesting that you begin implementing any education department or CISA best practices recommendations. So we're going to talk about those, and then a description of any education department or CISA free or low-cost cybersecurity resources an applicant currently utilizes or plans to utilize, or an explanation of what is preventing an applicant from utilizing these available resources. So we're going to talk about our best practices and then some of the services that we offer, depending on which slide I have up first. All right. So these are some of the services that we offer, both at a national level as well as a local level. So at a national level and again local level, we do a lot of tabletop exercises. We do a lot of information sharing, a whole lot of information sharing. One of the things that we really do here locally is assessments. What that is, it's a non-technical assessment. We're not going to come in and run through a network. Really, it's going to be an hour or 2 of sitting down with you or your technical staff or your IT provider, whomever it may be, and looking at our cybersecurity best practices and talking with you if you have that implemented, how you've implemented that, if you haven't implemented it, ways that you can. Really, really easy process, and we encourage everybody to do that. We also encourage everybody to go through a tabletop exercise at least annually. We can certainly support you doing that. We can facilitate it, help you design it, or just give you advice on how to do it. So that's what we do here locally. At the national level, we have some of our assessment, or technical assessments. One of the big ones is our cyber hygiene scanning, which I think is my next slide. So we want everybody in the nation to enroll in this program. It's a very, very easy program. You should have the handouts for it, and I'm going to pull those up in a second. But what it does is it scans your external facing, your internet facing, your public facing assets. It doesn't scan any of your internal computers unless there's a misconfiguration. Really, we're looking at anything you have on the internet. It scans it fairly continuously, and then you get a weekly report that lets you know if we find any vulnerabilities or find any issues. You get a weekly report card from it that looks exactly like that. This report card tells you how many hosts that you have on the internet, if we identify any risky services like RDP and things of that nature, and then the vulnerabilities associated with it. Behind every report, and the report's pretty lengthy, but behind every report are a bunch of spreadsheets which not only tell you the issue, but how to mitigate it. So I'm going to drop out of the PowerPoint. So again, you should have these handouts, and if you don't, happy to send them to you. So the first one is just a fact sheet about the program. Pretty quick and easy. What's nice about it is the scans are continual. If it detects a critical vulnerability, it scans it every 12 hours until close. If it detects a high, it's once a day, 4 days for medium, and 7 days for no vulnerabilities. And then you get that weekly report. Really easy program. So if you do want to sign up, there are 2 forms required. One is the service request form. Pretty straightforward, information about your organization. The NAICS code, you can just look it up. It's even got a little link there. But look up library and NAICS, and that'll get you the right one. Yes, you want to enroll in vulnerability scanning, and then some more organizational information. So pretty quick and easy. The second one is the acceptance letter. Again, just kind of filling it out. A couple of important parts on here. Down at the bottom, one is please sign it. We see that quite a bit. More good stuff there. Name of technical POC, all pretty self-explanatory. And then down here is you actually put in your public-facing IP addresses. These are not your internal IP addresses, but whatever's actually sitting out there on the internet. Again, should be fairly straightforward, but if you have questions, concerns while doing it, happy to answer any of them. Once you're enrolled, if you need to change your IP addresses, if you want to stop the program, whatever it may be, all you have to do is reach out to vulnerability@cisa.dhs.gov and let them know you need to add addresses, subtract them, or cancel the program. But again, a couple of forms. There is no contract with us, and again, this service is offered at absolutely no cost. All right. The other big one we would like everybody to join is MSISAC. It's the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. MSISAC is run by the Center for Internet Security, but most of their free stuff is funded by us here at CISA. So they've got a really good program. It's called the Malicious Domain Blocking and Reporting. And as you can see on the slide, it prevents IT systems from connecting to harmful web domains, limiting infections related to known malware, ransomware, phishing, and other cyber threats. The capability can block the vast majority of ransomware infections just by preventing the initial outreach to a ransomware delivery domain. So the way ransomware tends to work, and we see this way too often, is you get a virus on one computer. When that virus gets on that computer, it then starts communicating back out to the ransomware operator saying, hey, I'm here. It shoots up a red star cluster. Come do something with me. When that ransomware operator has the time and the energy, they will then access that first computer and begin their attack through that network. What MDBR does is it will help stop that initial communication back out to the ransomware operator. So really, really good tool. Again, it's at no cost. It's offered through MSISAC. The actual vendor that provides the service is Acme. It takes about 15 minutes to set up. It's just you point your DNS towards them. It is not a web filter. So a web filter typically is blocking websites that you don't want folks to go to, like adult sites or gambling or whatever it may be. And it will, if you already have web filters in place, this can run concurrently with it. So your web filter is going to be a software feature on your firewall. You may use some other tools, and then you keep that, and you can also point your firewalls, your DNS provider to MSISAC. Signing up for MSISAC, let's see if this worked properly. It did not. So signing up for MSISAC, it takes a couple of minutes. Really super simple. They offer a number of other services. One of them is if you do have an incident, they do have 24/7 incident response. It can be, sometimes they get a bit busy, but they do a really good job. Again, the incident response is offered at no cost to MSISAC members. Their cyber incident response team. Cybersecurity advisories. If you do sign up for MSISAC, you are going to get about 17,000 emails a day. I apologize. I get them as well, but they do a really good job. They do send on Mondays. If you join, you keep an eye out for it. They send out a list of known bad IPs and domains, and you can literally take that, put it in your firewall, and start blocking that stuff. So really, really good organization. We fund all of their free services. They do offer paid services. We don't advertise that. You're welcome to check them out. But all of their no-cost services are taxpayer funded as well. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. Again, MSISAC, if I didn't put the link in there, I will do so in a little bit. But we would encourage you to at least take a look at the malicious domain blocking reporting service. Really, really beneficial and really helpful. If you're using a tool already like Cisco Umbrella, it's going to provide a similar service. But if you don't have anything, great program, and we would love everybody to sign up for it. All right. So one of your requirements, from what I understand, is that you do have to look at our checklist. So the one I would assume they're recommending, this is actually in the process of being updated, so it may change by the time you look at it, but it's called the Cybersecurity Performance Goals. And these are the 38 baseline practices we want to see everybody at least try to implement. Some of them may not be applicable in your environment, and that's okay. So let's see if I cannot. Tried. I already pulled it up. All right. So this was also in the handout. You should have a copy of this. If you don't, I'm happy to provide. Whenever we start looking at cybersecurity, the first thing we always ask about your asset inventory. Understanding every device with an IP address on your network. If you've not done that and you've not identified all devices, if you have BYOD, people connecting to your wireless, that connect to your production wireless, be aware of that and start looking at how you can identify all those devices. There should be somebody in charge of cybersecurity within your organization. It should not just be an ad hoc thing, but somebody should be fully appointed towards it. If you have any operational technology, and for many libraries, this may or may not apply, but I've been to a number of libraries in the state. I like to go to libraries, and you guys are offering some pretty cool technical solutions, 3D printing, CNC, laser cutting, and things like that, which are awesome. If those devices are networked, if you can reach them either via wireless or wired, those would be OT and need to be taken care of as well. All of those devices have some level of compute to them and can become vulnerable. We have, and I should have dropped a link for it, mitigating known vulnerabilities, being aware of your vulnerabilities. One of the things I've seen across the state over the past couple of years is many organizations, so we offer our external scanning service. Many organizations are not doing internal scanning. It's absolutely critical to identify those vulnerabilities within your own environment internally. And so looking at having some level of internal vulnerability scanning is almost a must at this point. Would encourage you to do it. Talking about grants, that's a good grant project perhaps. The tools don't have to be very expensive, but certainly can assist you to become more secure. Bringing in a third party to do an audit, to do a pen test, is a great idea, and we encourage everybody to do that. We can help you with that, and certainly want to. The next three is looking at your supply chain, looking at your vendors, software providers, manufacturers, really any of the organizations that can impact your network security that you don't have control over. If you do have companies or other vendors or other organizations that can impact your network security, how do you ensure that they are protecting your security? And the way to do that in one route is by having contractual language that they have to report incidents to you, that they have to disclose any vulnerabilities in their software to you. And finally, is to actually have cybersecurity requirements in that contract with that vendor. This could be adhering to a cybersecurity framework, like cybersecurity performance goals. It could be that they have to train their people, let you know if they fired anybody, things of that nature. Have a process to change default passwords. Require a minimum password strength. Be cautious and careful with shared accounts. I know in many libraries you may have systems that are kiosks, and that's okay as long as those kiosks don't have access into your production network, or you've set it up in such a way that damage is limited. So there are techniques and approaches that you can take that you can offer tools like kiosks, but we can ensure that we continue to have a secure environment. Also, amongst employees, everybody should have a unique account. It shouldn't be, counter account one, things like that. Having a process and enforce that process when an employee leaves to disable and eventually delete that account. Your administrators, your IT administrators should have a separate account from their daily use account. Basically, the account an IT administrator uses to browse the web, check email and things, that should not be the same account that they use to administer your networking systems. I talked about segmentation already. That is just something we don't see implemented a lot, but that's the way that a virus or a ransomware attack spreads. So as much as you can, having segmentation on that network. Going back to the idea of having kiosks in the library is segmenting off that kiosk so somebody with bad intentions can't use that to attack your primary or production systems. Have the ability to detect automated login attempts. Please use MFA. We would love to see MFA all the way to the desktop, but if not, at least for any cloud accounts, any remote access, like through a VPN or go to my PC or whatever it may be, please use MFA as much as you can. Train your staff. I saw somebody on here discussing that one of the organizations used to send out phishing emails to check people. The state does it. We do it at the federal level, but also just give them that annual training, do updates occasionally throughout the year, but ensuring that staff is aware of those cybersecurity risks. We're going to skip that one. Encrypt everything that you can, not only at the desktop level, but tablets and phones, if you're using thumb drives, and then even more so any network devices, and ensuring that you're using modern encryption on that, as well as for any websites that you operate or maintain. Don't just write down passwords and store them underneath the keyboard, please. We still see that quite a bit, but ensuring that sensitive data is not stored in plain text. Email security, there's some good stuff out there, ensuring that you're enabling SPF, and DMARC. We have some tools that are available. You can download them off our GitHub site that will actually, if you're using something like Office 365 or Google Workspace or G Suite, it will scan that tenant and compare it against our baseline. We don't get the results from that. It's completely locally ran. We're not going to see anything, but it can help you assess your 365 or Google Workspace tenant and ensuring that it is meeting best practices. Disable macros. Macros have come back as a major threat vector, so turning those off completely as much as you can. Documenting device configuration, having a good network diagram, having that hardware and software approval process, removing local admin from your users, and ensuring that if somebody wants to install a new piece of hardware or a new piece of software, that it has to go through that approval process. Have good backups, please, and we'll hit on backups again in a little bit, but having that offline and offsite backup. If all you have is an on-premise, connected backup, that does help, but if you get hit with ransomware, attackers are going to go and delete that first. They're not going to bother to encrypt it, they just delete it. So having that offline, offsite backup is critical. And it's not just ransomware. We've certainly had cases here in the state, both Western Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky, where natural disasters have destroyed not only the servers, but the backups for those organizations. So whether it's tornadoes or floods, that can happen too. You don't have to go to the cloud. Many people do, but having that offsite disconnected backup is absolutely critical to protect yourselves. Develop an incident response plan. There's many templates out there. We're happy to assist you to do that, but actually having something documented and really ensuring that you have those good phone numbers that you can reach out to people that you need to. At the very least, having that good phone tree can be really, really helpful during an incident. Collecting logs. Not a whole lot of people are doing this. It's just not collecting the logs on the device, but actually getting them off of that device and sending them somewhere. You don't have to analyze them, but at the very least, getting the logs off the device and then shipping them to a centralized log storage is incredibly helpful, particularly if you have an incident. If you are collecting logs, make sure that they're stored securely. Have policies and processes to prohibit the connection of unauthorized devices, including thumb drives. Enroll on our vulnerability scanning, and then if there's something out there that you shouldn't have, like an RDP or VNC or things like that, making sure those aren't on the internet. If you do have operational technology, keep it off of the public internet, put it behind a firewall. Go through a threat assessment. Threat assessments are fun. I enjoy doing them. And really, it's looking at how a threat actor would come up against your organization. There's some threat actors that are known to target small government or small government organizations like libraries, and ensuring that you understand how that attack would unfold and that you can defend against it. Just a couple more. Having that process policy to report incidents. We would encourage you to report incidents to us at CISA. You can send us an email, call us, or you can go online and report an incident, but also as well as any other incident reporting that you have to do. Having that documented, having that plan in place is a good thing to do. The vulnerability disclosure and reporting, we're going to kind of blow past that, although it's a good idea. Having a security.txt file, this is an easy win. Basically, you put it on your website. If a security researcher or other interested party identifies an issue with your website, that security.txt file gives them some contact information. It could be security@library.org, and then they send you an email. Easy win, easy to do, and can really help you out. And then finally is incident planning and preparedness. And really, this is going through a tabletop. Having an incident response plan and then going through that tabletop to ensure that you exercise that plan. If you take the time to write an incident response plan and you don't exercise it, it's not worth much. But so these are the 8 practices. Again, some of them you can scope out, but these are the 38 practices that we want to see just about every organization adopt. I know that's exciting stuff. It's what I do for a living. All right. A couple of more things I wanted to hit on. Shodan, I talk about Shodan a lot. Shodan is a public website. Anybody in the world can go on Shodan. It's shodan.io. You can get a free account. You can pay for an account, and then they have some enterprise level accounts. But what Shodan does is tries to identify everything connect the internet. They call themselves the Google for the Internet of Things. And so anything connected to the internet.
Colin, I think we lost your audio. I don't know if you're muted. Oh, we may have lost. It looks like Colin is trying to reconnect. So hopefully he'll be on in just a moment. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat. And we have another presenter, Ryan Lewis, here. He may be able to respond or add resources to the chat. Okay, well, let me see. Ryan, are you still on? Or are you unmute?
Yes, I'm still here. So what Colin was going to say about Shodan is that Shodan, it says it's connected to the internet. It's kind of one of those tools that anyone can use. You can buy you can get a license or get a free account and kind of just scan for open ports within the state of Kentucky or any other states, and it'll come back with those with the open ports for those systems. So it's a tool utilized probably by a lot of people, to include the hackers. So utilizing some of the tools that we have at CISA could essentially help kind of shore up that your security posture with the external vulnerability scams. Because if they're seeing it, it's touching the internet, anything that touches the internet, anyone can see, and scanning the exterior and providing those reports from the Sci-High report will definitely assist with kind of plugging any holes you might have. And maybe if those devices are old, just removing them from the network if they're not needed.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ryan. Colin, do we have you back with audio?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. All right. Well, if you want to go ahead and get a screen share started again,
Yeah.
Ryan just finished describing Shodan to us.
Okay.
So that was really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my power just went out the house.
We figured today's a wild day, so no worries. We're used to technical issues here, so just take your time.
Yeah. Give me just a second, and because we're just about done, I think.
Yeah, we've got about 15 minutes left. You don't have to use all of that presentation time. Just didn't want you to feel cut off, and we haven't seen any questions yet. I think our audience is deeply absorbing the amount of information you've got, but I know I always have questions at the end of presentation, so I'll be glad to ask some.
Awesome. So yeah, and that really was the end of the slides. The last couple of things I wanted to hit is one, again, backups. Backup as much as you can. The general rule of thumb is what we call the 3-2-1 rule, and that's three different types of media, or sorry, three copies of your information on two different types of media, one of them being offsite and offline. And so that's, good rule of thumb. There's various methods out there, but again, three copies of your information, two different types of media, one of them offsite offline. Two is turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere that you can. And then three is patching as much as you can. As it says on there, it's the known exploited. We actually have a list of the vulnerabilities that we know are being targeted by attackers today. So ensuring that you're aware of those and you are at least patching the ones that are on that list. And with that, I think our contact information is at the end, and we're happy to take any questions that you may have.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And for folks who are attending the webinar, you can type into the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself to ask a question, that's certainly all right. Since we've got a wide variety of experience level here, we've got some longtime library IT managers are in the meeting. We also have some smaller libraries where they don't necessarily have dedicated IT staff. If those smaller libraries, or really any size library, wants to have kind of just a general consultation to figure out where they are and what they might be to do, especially if they intend to apply for the FCC's cybersecurity pilot program, or even the CISA grants. Could you just walk us through how they contact you guys? Do they just send an email to Ryan? Do you need to fill out that particular sheet you showed earlier? Just the basics.
Yeah, so basically just send an email to Ryan or me, and we are happy to work with you to get that consultation set up. And really just depends on your calendar. We try to be as flexible as possible, and we'll set up a date and kind of come out and go through all that stuff. Or it could be via Zoom or webinar as long as we have power. The 2 forms, that's for our vulnerability scanning, and those are required for that. But as far as actually getting us out, yeah, it's just as simple as an email or a phone call. We're happy to talk to you.
Excellent. All right, another quick question. You kind of briefly touched on the state and local cybersecurity program grants. So could you talk a little bit about that funding? Because earlier this week we had a webinar on the FCC cybersecurity pilot program, but this is a different opportunity. Could you just give a real basic rundown of how that works?
Sure. So the state and local SLCGP, that is a CISA FEMA grant that is actively managed by the state. So each state can run it their own way. So within Kentucky, the state will put out application forms for it, and those applications should come out in the next week or so. The turnaround will probably be about 45 days if it's held true in the past. This is the 3rd year of 4. And so basically you'll have 30 days, give or take, to get your application in for that. So I would expect mid-November, perhaps late November, for when applications will be due for that. That grant can be used for anything related to cybersecurity, but there are 4 objectives. The first objective is to actually have somebody in charge of cybersecurity, what we call governance. The second one is to have assessments done. The third objective is equipment, and then 4 is training. And the training really, it could be for staff training, but it's really geared more towards getting folks trained in technical cybersecurity issues. The bottom line, though, is, and I can't speak for the state, but I can certainly tell you what I've heard before, is that buying equipment is not helpful if you don't have anybody in charge of actually maintaining and managing that equipment. So ensuring that you have that in place, and you can use the grant, whether it's to hire somebody or to go with a vendor or some combination of that, so that you do have the building blocks of that cybersecurity program. But again, the application for that should be open in the next week or so, and then they tend to do webinars and other trainings on how to fill that out.
Excellent. Really glad to hear that.
And then the actual information is on the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. So yeah, if you look up Kentucky Office of Homeland Security and go to the grants, the information about it should be there.
See if I can track down that link real fast to add it to the chat. Yeah, it looks like it is still closed, but let me add the link to Kentucky and security grants.
Yeah, that application should open in the next week or so, hopefully.
Excellent. Let's see what else has popped up in the chat. So we have a question from Callaway County. So those grants can be used for cybersecurity staff salaries. So I think in this case, it might be a question about paying, say, the library staff, or does it have to be for a third-party vendor?
No, it could be used to hire somebody. There is a period of performance, like 3 years, I think. And then you have to be able to articulate how you would maintain that going forward. The grant can't be used to supplant funds. So if you already have somebody on staff, then you couldn't use the grant to cover that staff member salary. But if you're looking at bringing somebody on board, you could use it for that.
Okay, that's really interesting. Often for library grants, that's not possible to really pay, those staff salaries. So that's a really interesting option, and that is different than the FCC's cybersecurity pilot program. So excellent question, Maylee. Does anyone else have any questions? Because we've got a few more minutes, and this is a great opportunity to talk live with experts who know a lot more about cybersecurity than I do. I'm not sure we'll have any more questions. This is a lot of content, and sometimes our attendees are a little bit quiet. We are but humble library folks, gentle library folks. Oh, let's see. I knew that would inspire some questions. Oh, not even sure what to ask, and Rhonda says she's overwhelmed. Okay, well, it sounds like you guys need to reach out to Colin and Ryan. Oh my gosh, okay. So now we're getting a lot of comments about people not being able to ask a question, and that's okay to feel overwhelmed. That's why we've got Colin and Ryan here to help. So we're going to wait about 30 more seconds to see if any other questions come in. Do you have any last comments, Colin, about encouraging libraries to, take some steps if they're brand new?
Yeah, and sorry if there's noise in the background. The power just came back on. And it's how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. There are certainly processes you can put in place today that can help shore it up. The external vulnerability scanning, the MDBR, are too quick and easy. Really doesn't require a whole lot of work from anybody to get signed up for those and get those going, and can certainly help protect your environment. And then that using multi-factor, if you're using Office 365 or G Suite or another cloud-based email provider, turning on multi-factor goes a long ways to reducing your risk. And then backups. But we are happy to help. It's what we do for a living. Many places are surprised how available we are. That's our role here, is to come out and support folks like y'all to ensure that you are a little bit more secure.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate it. We do have up on screen a thank you to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. They provide funding to KDLA that supports so many training opportunities like the one you're attending today. So thank you again, Colin. Thank you again, Ryan. We'll go ahead and stop the recording, but stay safe this weekend, everyone.